I'm Steve Levin. I'm a city council member in the 33rd district. Represent Greenpoint, Williamsburg, South Williamsburg, a portion of Bedford-Stuyvesant, like Northwest Bed-Stuy, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, Vinegar Hill, Dumbo, downtown Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights, and Boerum Hill. And I want to thank Nick for inviting me. Sorry, Nick, that I forgot and didn't give you the ride over here like I said I was going to do. I have a 3-month-old, and we had some family stuff that we had to do tonight. This is getting towards the end of the second term. I'm running for a third term, and this past term I've been really excited to have been part of the progressive coalition that elected Melissa Mark-Viverito to be Speaker of the City Council, and part of that, as part of that coalition, I have been the chair of the Council's General Welfare Committee, which is the committee that oversees Human Resources Administration, Department of Homeless Services, and Administration for Children's Services. So when we're talking about progressive values as a city, when we're talking about serving the people that are most in need, those are the agencies that have the most interaction with people on a day-to-day basis. And so at the committee, we've had oversight hearings around the city's homeless plan, working with Commissioner Steve Banks and his team on developing a more robust homeless plan. I was helpful with this administration going to Albany to get rules changed so that we can have a subsidy program for families coming out of the shelter system, which has been a benefit to the overall system. It hasn't had exactly the desired effects that we had hoped that it would, but it's certainly better than it would have been had those reforms not been taking place. We also have been working with the Administration for Children's Services. We've done a robust amount of legislation around improving the foster care system, which is in need of constant upkeep as a system in terms of serving the children that are in the system for long periods of time. There are kids that have gone through the foster care system 15, 20, 25 homes over the course of their 18 years in the system, or sometimes 21 years in the system, and it doesn't prepare them and doesn't give them the resources that they need, whether it's education, whether it's support services, housing, basic things. And so I did sponsor some legislation around creating a foster youth task force so that we have young people in care around the table with high-level mayoral appointees, talking about the issues that matter to them. And actually on Wednesday at the council, we're having a foster youth shadow day where we're going to have young people that are in care or age out of care meeting with council members and talking with us about the things that they need, that they want to see the system improve upon. So I've been very active with this committee over the last few years. In addition, I've worked on legislation. One that pertains to North Brooklyn is Intro 495, which I've worked on with Councilmember Antonio Reynoso as the prime sponsor, and he is the chair of the Sanitation Committee and second sponsor. It's a waste equity. So North Brooklyn is an environmentally impacted, overburdened district when it comes to waste transfer stations. You see that right here along Morgan or Vandervoort or Johnson Avenue, all the waste transfer trucks. North Brooklyn has almost 40% of the city's capacity in waste transfer stations. That means that we take 40% of what's out there in the city in terms of private waste, people's refuse and restaurants. And so this bill we've worked a lot of hours on this with Antonio's office, and we have an agreement with the administration. They're moving forward, and we should see the bill pass at the end of the year. They have to conduct an EIS, which takes about 6 months, which they're doing right now. So by the end of the year, this will pass. This will be across the board for the city, so that South Bronx, Southeast Queens, and North Brooklyn, the overburdened districts that have had these historically high levels of waste transfer stations, that will be equaled out. It's complicated in terms of the details. Another bill that we've been working on, we passed last year's creating a New York City cultural plan, so that New York City will, for the first time, have a broad-based cultural plan to take assessment of what culture is in New York City, how we can support it both in large term, in big cultural institutions, but also in culture in our communities, places like Bushwick Star here in Bushwick, or Triskelion in Greenpoint, really good outer borough cultural institutions. What we can do to support them, artists, keeping New York City a livable city for artists, for the next generation, which it's really not. And so, if you've heard anything about the cultural plan, it's coming up in terms of its final report in the coming months, and I was proud to be the lead sponsor of that bill. And then one last thing, not legislative but community-based, working with Nick and other elected officials in North Brooklyn on convincing the city to finally acquire Bushwick Inlet Park, which was a lot of work over the last couple of years, and it was a lot of activism on the community level, and then kind of working with this administration to make the commitment to finally acquire the city storage site. So one day, long after I'm out of office, that will be a full park that will be there for many generations to come, like Prospect Park, like Central Park, and so I'm really proud of working on that over the last couple of years. So with that, happy to take questions.
Awesome. So I will go ahead and open it up. What is your position on the upcoming proposed constitutional convention in New York State, and why?
I'm supportive of a constitutional convention in New York State. I think that it's, New York State is not a fully functional state government as it stands right now. And what we've seen on the state level has been very dismal. I have friends that are elected officials that are assembly members and state senators, and so it's not really, it's not for it's not for lack of the integrity of the overwhelming majority of elected officials at all, but the system itself is constructed to impede democracy, reform, things like campaign finance. It's the people of the state of New York in large ways have been have not been supported or given agency by what is by the way that Albany works. And so I'm in full support of I think the best way to create real reform is through a constitutional convention. So I'm supportive of it for sure.
Awesome. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, just curious what your position is on community land trusts or Councilmember Donald Richards' bill introducing that to the city code.
I'm in support of community land trusts. I think that one thing as council member that I've found myself in the position of doing a lot is negotiating with either the administration or private developers on land use projects, because the council has a role in ULURP, and so probably at this point 10 or 12 times I've had to negotiate projects in the 33rd district. The system itself is insufficient to create the public benefit that we really want in our communities. So more affordable housing, more than what right now is under the mandatory inclusionary. Real community control over the process. It's just because of the nature of the ULURP process and it's kind of how it's structured under the charter. It can achieve good results. It's very hard to get it to achieve great results. And I think community land trusts are a very innovative way of having more community role and say into how things actually happen on property that's open for development.
Yeah.
What's your position on the Transmitter Park RFP?
I'm not in favor of it as I think that it's right now. There's actually a ULURP in front of the council. Like we're gonna have a hearing next week on 1315 Greenpoint Avenue, which is the parcel right next to it. I've been talking to the developer, as has the Friends of Transmitter Park, on ways that they would potentially help improve improve the park. I don't think that it was the right thing to do at this time. I think it would be actually really great to have some type of not-for-profit space there. I met with the Friends of Transmitter Park a week and a half ago or so, and they put that out on the table. So I'm going to actually call the Parks Department tomorrow and officially request that they withdraw the RFP, have a community process. You know, that structure needs a lot of work. There's an opportunity perhaps for this development team to contribute to some of that, and they've been talking to the Friends of Transmitter Park about that. And I haven't gotten into any specifics with them about that, but I know that they have been talking with the Parks Department. And if I'm sure that whether it's Brooklyn Botanic Gardens or the Audubon Society or some other type of nature or open space organization would be eager to go into a space if it were habitable. So, we should probably withdraw that, have a community process to determine how to use that facility.
That's fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We're out of, unfortunately, 11 minutes, otherwise I would
I thought you had.
Yeah. I think proceed. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody.